Welcome back to the Antisocial Podcast, episode 304. And if you've been paying attention and you're listening to this episode on time, you would have noticed that there's been a little bit of a gap between 303 and 304, several months, in fact. We here in Sydney have been in and out of a massive lockdown. We've recently been let out of the cage, and I tell you what, I'm fucking back, baby. I'm back in the podcasting seat, and we're chin-wagging with a whole bunch of different awesome people. So we're going to jump right into it. This episode is with a return guest, Riley Strong of Desecrator, Melbourne thrash metal band that's been around for a number of years and has recently announced that they're going on an indefinite hiatus. So stay tuned. Riley's going to talk about all this in this chat. Riley's been previously on the podcast episode 133, and you can also listen to previous episodes with drummer Jared Roberts, episode 271, and Andrew Hudson of Harlot fame, as well as Desecrator on episode 300. Lots of stuff there to check out. Go and check out the latest Desecrator album Summoning, and you can go and see them if you're in Australia on their tour in January, which is going to places like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, bloody Warrnambool, Ballarat, Gold Coast, Canberra, Albury, Newcastle. There's a whole bunch of dates over at desecrator.net/tour, but I'm going to have everything in the show notes over at andysocial.net or andydowling.net. I've almost forgotten how to even do these intros now because it's been so long. But I am back. And also, before we dive into it, go to patreon.com/AndyDowling. I've reworked the tiers, all nice and cheap, $1 and $5 tiers. That's it. And it's a great way to support the podcast. But enough crapping on from me. Please enjoy this great chat with the legend himself, Riley Strong.
There's a lot happening. I think I've got a messenger group chat in my phone that says Desecrator final show as the group chat.
Wow.
And that's weird to look at every now and then. You open up your messenger because you get a nice little endorphin releasing ding from someone sending you a message, and then you see Desecrator final show, ding, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing, that's happening. So I guess that's the biggest overarching thing that's happening, Andy, is that after 12 years of focus and pushing, Desecrators going into a different space.
Of all the bands that I would expect this to happen, you guys would be pretty far down the list. Just given what you guys have done over the years and how hard you've sort of been, working at the whole thing and that focus and, the way you guys talk about it and new album and all that sort of stuff. Part of it is not a surprise if I could make assumptions, but I think for you guys, I was certainly shocked. Was this something that you guys have been sort of toying about for the past several months or the last year, or what's sort of the mindset?
There's kind of a lot of go-to points in what you just said, but to go to the direct one first, I guess it was a conversation that was never, it was never taboo to talk about the idea of Desecrator not being forever. And it was also, it's been such a supportive group that I think there was never a point where people's life goals were ever off the table, which I think in bands, people get in spaces where they're so scared to admit any type of development in their personal lives that may change the priority where heavy metal lies, or may suggest a change in allegiance to, the overarching idea of the band, in inverted commas, that that's when band relationships can become really unhealthy, because it's like any relationship. If you start to keep the truth from each other or your motivations change, then I think things become dysfunctional pretty quick. And that's why you see a lot of bands, as the years go on, their lineups start to change in a nasty way, not in a cathartic kind of way. But anyway, so that wasn't what was happening. It was more just that we were always a good space to be able to talk about that. And I guess that when Summoning was written and recorded, which was pre-COVID, we had it ready to come out pre the world stopping, and we were such a fast-paced band at that point. We were doing so many tours. We were doing a lot of stuff all around the world and in Australia, and we were used to that pace and used to that kind of dominant, life distracting speed that I think heavy metal, well, bands, forget heavy metal, but bands in general can give you that. If you're looking for it, can give you something to belong to that will either be like an overarching force in your life or a distraction at times, or whatever you're looking for, because they can be as dominant as you're prepared to let them be, because there's no day where there's not something to do for a band. There's no time that it isn't great to be out promoting a band. There's no 24-hour cycle the way it is. There's no time of the day or night that you cannot be deciding you have something to do. So I guess we were a very fast-paced band in that way, and that was driven by my own goals, but I also surrounded myself with people who could not only keep up that pace, but I guess help push it even further. So then when the world kind of stopped turning a little bit as far as arts and entertainment went, well, I mean, as far as everything went, but arts and entertainment in particular, because it's relevant, we were forced to see the space, to see the gaps, to see our lives. Different people were in different positions with their own careers and their personal lives. For me personally, I'd been hopping jobs for a long time and sitting in that space where it didn't matter because Desecrator was doing well. But when you move that away from being the day-to-day front focus, which is what kind of happened because we were such a live-focused band, you started to have the space, the dangerous space of looking at, okay, well, where's life at? Where is Desecrator at the 12-year point? What are the goals for Desecrator in the next 3 to 5 years? What do we want out of the band? And do we believe that of those goals, they're available to us now, or they're not available? Are they just pipe dreams? And are we ready to sacrifice what we know by this point is involved in doing that? I mean, a lot of people look at bands going overseas and touring, and there's kind of two thoughts. It's either, oh, that must be heaps of fun, like a holiday, or hey, they've got heaps of money, they must be just paying their way around. That's like the two common schools of how to do the tall poppy, cut a band down thing in Australia. Yeah. But there's so much more to it than that. Like, there's so much more planning and life dedication and logistics on your Australian life and then your European life, and there's so much that goes behind those things that you have to really be, I've always believed you have to be prepared for a full 5-year bracket or a larger plan to even instigate a shorter plan, to make them worthwhile. And that was why Desecrator was such a fast moving force, is because I guess we had those big goals. But we sat down as a group and kind of put on the table, okay, what were we excited about doing? What did we want to do with summoning? And now that summoning's coming out and kind of doing what it's amazingly done on its own, what's next? Like, what's the next step? Do we want to go back as soon as it's available to being in that world traveling space? And it didn't feel comfortable when we were talking about it. I mean, the music industry's such a changing force, in my opinion, right now. I don't think that it can run on the old model that it did. It was already struggling under the old model. Like, I think that a big hiatus is going to force a lot of new thought and a lot of new power shifts, and there's a lot of kind of uncertainty that might be mega positive. I mean, this might be a time where bands can take control and do something like release their own album and have it go really well, or it might be a really hard time where, for bands who want to play and to tour, it's going to be a really new, like, brave new world. So not knowing all of that, we kind of didn't feel comfortable just making bold decisions of, right, we just want to go back out into the world, just want to experience touring again. And it kind of felt like if we did it, it'd be for very selfish reasons, not for greater good of the Desecrator band reasons as well. It was like our lives were being shut down, our social lives were being stopped, so we yearned for what was the peak of them, which was, being on the road for 8 weeks in Europe, or going to South America, or going to Mexico, or doing any of the amazing things that we used to do quite, regularly enough. But the motivations weren't the same back when we were originally doing them. They were part of a larger game plan of Desecrator being a larger and larger band. So without having that same motivation, it didn't quite feel correct. And then the conversation went further to the music and to what is our music doing right now in the world? What is the viability of Desecrator's growth and Desecrator doing more than just maintaining? And, I think to say that playing a genre of music that reached its peak in 1987 could arguably say that it was a dicey idea in the first place, let's be honest. But so you could say that it's kind of irrelevant in a way, but it's always relevant to look at what people are listening to and what's happening, because obviously it's not your motivation to write songs just to please a larger crowd. But if you are going to exist as a band and you're going to look at your band as a business or business-like entity, you kind of need that that belief that there's going to be support in the marketplace for what you're going to release. So that was, we can't answer that question, but it was something that definitely came up. But what did come up that was really nice that I guess has never been up for debate in Desecrator as a group is that as a creative process and as a creative outlet, nothing's changed. Like the enjoyment of creating music, creating summoning and releasing summoning has been a great high point for this band, which is strange to say because it's been at a time where not a lot of bands are getting high points and you wouldn't expect to find one. But the way that this album's come out, the gamble we took on releasing it on our own while all the record labels we'd been talking to were too scared to do anything or put any money behind anything because the market was so unsure, we just kind of fronted up and went, we believe it's time to do it. And to watch it go, to watch it recoup, to watch it spread, to watch the reviews come out and to watch the kind of impact it's been having has been a really big treat for us and a high point for us, which I guess is validated as a writing group. The creativity side's never been under any type of question. So then that brings up the next point. I should really put a full stop in this.
No, keep it going. Let's throw another comma in.
But we're on a roll. But that then led to the point because you then think, okay, well, you agree that you're a writing force. You like the creative outlet, but when does that become something that shifts from music being storytelling and music existing to communicate, and when does it become the selfishness of music validates all my hard work? If that makes sense, the idea that we've all, you're a musician, you get it. We've spent so many years playing, working at our instruments, sacrificing and building something. That is there a point where we're starting to create the art for ourselves and not for ourselves and everyone else? Again, so that started to come up. I guess that brought up the point of, has Desecrator said what it needs to say right now? Has Desecrator, which was a band that I put together as a young dude to slay. It was a band, it was a young man's band that got put together to be a dominant live assaulting force that was just going to reaffirm that thrash metal is what it is. It's such an energy-based style of music, and that if you present it without any perversions, it's a really, really solid foundation for communicating and translating energy between people. So I guess we kind of reached the point where we weren't in that headspace anymore, and I felt that if we weren't in that space, releasing more music under Desecrator at this point would feel like the reasoning had shifted, and then I'd be afraid that we'd be releasing diluted comment. I mean, how many times has a band, to your ears, released an album that felt like it wasn't for you as a fan? You know, and I think that's a really important thing. Like, I listen to bands, you know, I'll listen to them, get hooked on them on an album. It just feels like everything they've done is for me as the listener. And then I'll listen to the follow-up album with you know, with eagerness, only to hear that it doesn't connect to me, you know. And I didn't want Desecrator to become that band. I didn't want Desecrator to be Metallica going through Injustice to the Black Album to Load. Like, I don't think that was the purpose of Desecrator as a band. I think the purpose of Desecrator was to be a statement in aggression and speed and power and all those type of energies. So to not be translating that felt like it wouldn't be Desecrator. It wouldn't be fair to take the brand and, you know, I hate the word a fan base, but the people who enjoyed the band on that type of journey. I felt like Desecrator had kind of, the summoning was as far as I could mature the band whilst keeping the message of the band pure.
It's so hard when, at least from my perspective, I've always seen you guys as where you get your energy source is from being on the road. It's playing live. It's all that stuff that you mentioned, like the origins of the band, why it was created in the first place, and that's sort of the identity behind the songs. You know, you might sing about a whole bunch of different things, and the songs are diverse in their own right, but ultimately they're fueled by that ethos of the band of getting out there, playing shows, that high energy. And if there's a shift around, you know, playing shows or the touring and that aspect that's been such a dynamic and critical part of the band for so many years, then I totally get where you're coming from. It's very hard to write in that same vein when you're not actually living that where you got that energy force from before. So I could appreciate that. You know, how do you write new stuff without that? And is that ultimately what Desecrator is? So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's the question that we had to ask as a group. You know, is taking away the main motivator of, you know, we're a band that even writing Summoning, like, we came off the road and the dudes kind of said to me at the start of Summoning, right, no more tours, we need to take the cattle gates off to write this album. We really feel this album shouldn't have time brackets. Everything we've done previously, we'd always put pressure on. So the band was already pulled off the road after the Airborne tour of Europe. We had a few things happen, a few missed opportunities, which at the time were very frustrating in the band's growth. But I guess we rerouted our attention onto an album. And Jared in particular really believed that we had a really powerful album in us. And as we started to write the songs for it, everything that we'd learned along the journey, like the culmination of, you know, hugging external heater pipes for warmth at night in the back of fucking Russia, to you know, to touring and taking master classes off dudes like Tait from Hyrax, who was there in the Metallica garage, to touring with Venom and, you know, becoming friends with the Venom Inc. dudes. You know, like all these great experiences, which I could harp on about forever, but they gave us what we needed to write an album. And even though Muggsy had just come into the lineup, he'd walked enough roads in Harlot himself, and he'd gone on enough of a journey that he still spoke the same language we were speaking. So when we as a group started to write that album, I feel like the key when I listen to the album is it is exactly what you're describing as far as our motivations. It was, that album is the previous 10 years of Desecrator learning. That album is 10 years of Desecrator trying, failing, succeeding, going through the emotional pitfalls, lineup changes, like you name it, it's in that album. I can feel it in the songs. So yes, we as a group need those motivations, and we needed those inspirations. And I don't think that means that that was the only place we were getting our creativity from, but it was a dominant force. And I do think that if I changed where the motivation was coming from, it wouldn't be the Desecrator that the people who follow the band go to the band for. It wouldn't give them the outlet that they want. Of course, I'm not a puppet master, so I'm not the one who gets to decide that. And there'll be people who will probably hear that comment and say, well, that's up to the listener, not up to the artist. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to take that chance under the brand name. I want Desecrator to be remembered in the strength of its life. And I think that was the other thing about Summoning. Sure, the album's shattered any previous achievements we'd ever had as far as sales and spread. Like, it has just got a mind of its own, which is amazing. And it's a really weird thing to happen at the same time as announcing a final tour. But at the same time, it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of beautiful that all these people are connecting with the band, and their memory of Desecrator is going to be this strong point, this stride where we're at our absolute peak, where the stage show was the best, the lineup was the best, and the material communicated to people the most. So I think as far as a time to pull the handbrake on, it feels kind of like I'd rather do it now than try and fail for a couple, or go from being a headliner to a 3 out of 4 to a 2 out of 4, play Melbourne 40 too many times, go out on a tour, but, start to see the dwindling heads and the arms crossed. And, I don't know, it's at such a high point now, and our memories of being on the road are already so nostalgic because of the space that COVID's given us, that I think, why not? Why not chuck the handbrake on at a peak instead of a trough?
That's a tough one to do. I mean, if you look, you think of all the bands that we've grown up with and loved, and the bands that no longer exist anymore, a lot of those splits have been due to interpersonal drama or those dwindling sales, the unsuccessful record, the left-hand turn that they've taken on the creativity aspect, the change of their identity and sound, whatever that might be, and they sort of wait until those points before basically you're pushed into a corner and you got no choice, and it's like, this is just imploded. And I think for you guys to sort of have the self-awareness to sort of be thinking about all of these things and sort of using it as an exclamation mark to sort of say, this is the story of the band, and everything's running great as it is, and due to all these things that you've been talking about, it's a safe opportunity to be able to sort of put that full stop on the band as it stands right now, without compromising the legacy that you've created and all that history and that hard work by sort of letting it fizzle out or leak out of the boat due to whatever those range of scenarios that so many other bands go through. So I mean, it's a tough thing.
It'd be really sad in my eyes to keep putting Desecrator on stages and in front of people just for my own validation, because I'd stubbornly decided that this is what I did. I think that's the wrong reason to play music. Like, if that's your motivation, let's be honest, you don't have to, to call yourself a band, you don't have to ever get on a stage these days. And if the thing that you want is just the validation of playing your instrument, then do it with your friends in a rehearsal room privately for the rest of your life. I mean, I romantically think that Desecrator will still get together occasionally and play through old songs and have a time, but I don't think that we need to do it publicly. I think that's for us privately. I think that's something that we can share at a rehearsal room, and I think that that's the difference, is that don't make people suffer through your own validation until the bitter end, don't put them through it. And because your loyal fans and your loyal friends they'll keep coming, and I think you owe them more. We've talked about the power of the ticket holder before, and the fact that I believe that the ticket holder you are there for the person who's invested the money in your band. So give them only the best that you can. Give them absolutely the best. Don't go into the, oh yeah, but this guy left and we got this guy, he's not as good, but he was the guy who wanted to do it, so we got him and we're pretty much the same. Don't give them that version of your band. Don't give them, oh, but my wrist injuries are so bad that we can't really play our songs anymore, but we're still going to play them and still going to charge you to come in. Don't give them that either. Just only give them your best. And when you can't give them your best, realize that it's not about them anymore. It's about you, and you need to make that decision. You know, I think that there's so many ways you share art with people that staying in that one space too long is just, it's disrespectful to the legacy and to the people who like your music, in my opinion, you know. I think it, yeah. And look, touching on the point of the bigger bands that we all know who go through the exact journey you mentioned, I think there's one key point that makes it easier to have the perspective is that we don't have any fucking money. And you know what? I always along the way, I was always so funny about proving to people that Desecrator could earn. That was a really big thing for me. And if I look back on it already, it's an ego-based thing. I wanted people, because people who don't understand art and music, which let's face it is the majority in a country like Australia, you know, unless you're playing D-grade football till your knees give out, they won't bring it up at the Christmas table. So you have to find a way to justify your existence. And usually it's monetary, because the bloke next to you at work on a Tuesday is going to go, do you make any money on the weekend? And you're like, no, but I lived a life that you won't even fucking understand. Like, but anyway, the point being with that, where I was going before I sidetracked onto that, was that if you take away the financial side of it, I think there's this really nice purity to music. And you hear bands of large scale talk about it, like talking about how much things were easier when they could just play with other bands they wanted to, and they were all in a scene together. And then they all got too big, and all of a sudden it was political who they played with, and they had to get this much money, or they were through a booking agency that took this much, therefore their guarantee had to be this much, or they had to get on this package, so their label buys them onto it, and then they owe the label that much, so they've got to earn that much on the road. And all those things dilute and complicate the joy of music. They don't take it away, they just change it. They change it into being very grid-lined and having to have drive. And Desecrator got into that space because of my keenness for Desecrator to succeed. We needed a certain financial target in order for the band to keep going, but we never reached a point that anyone was pulling a wage out of the band. Everything the band earned just ran the band. The band was an entity that could run, and I mean, that in itself is an achievement as an Australian band, but it was something that always kept me very lean and honest about my motivations of Desecrator, because it wasn't like we took a show because I wanted an extra $500 in my pocket that week. It wasn't like we made the wrong choice on the wrong lineup because Jared had to, you know, do the tires on his car or something, which is a really realistic and viable thing that happens with bands. Is they rely on the wage. You know, they get in a spot where they can earn a wage, so they do, and they have to, and then what they're doing with their art becomes monetized, and it becomes exactly like the bloke beside you whose knees gave out, what he understands it to be, which I think is it's a whole different motivation. It's almost a perversion of music and art in a way. So because we never got in that space, I think it was easier for me to be able to sit and decide when the end point should be, or when the point that we stop should be, because there was nothing except for my own motivations and goals and our goals as a group to guide that decision, you know. And I kind of feel lucky for it. Like, it's a strange thing because, you know, everyone wants to be in a famous band and earn heaps of money, but the first thing you learn when you're in a band is there are no famous bands that earn heaps of money. They're actually all just bands earning money. But anyway, that's a different conversation as well. The point being that I think we kind of ended up in a good spot with that Desecrator ran itself but didn't run us. We've always felt in control of what Desecrator did. And I think a lot of bands get out of that space the minute they involve the growth that's needed with labels, with booking agents, with money, essentially.
That's it. There's a lot of responsibility and fulfillments, things that, commitments that you've made, and you've got to be good to them.
You have to do,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's that's cool. It's a rat race that I actively wanted to be part of for years. But I think it's really hard to keep a perspective once you're in that rat race. Once you've got those cattle gates on, it's not easy.
So, like, listening to you talk through all this, like, there's a lot of rationale behind it. Like, it makes sense. Like, 100% makes sense, and I can certainly relate to it. Just from, the ups and downs of being in a band for so many years, and just seeing, and especially, I think a lot of musicians over the past, 12 months or so have, whether they like it or not, have been forced to sit back and think a little bit about where they sit in their life and what are the priorities and why do they do what they do? Why are they the person that they have created over the past, 20 years or whatever it might be leading up to sort of the last 12 months. But I mean, how hard has it been for you to sort of get to the point of rationale now in the way that you sort of internalized it and processed it now? Because it all makes sense. I mean, it's beautiful the way that you're explaining it, but I assume that it hasn't been sort of, you mentioned earlier, at the beginning of the chat, like, you guys have always been open and honest with each other about, where people's motivations are and make sure everyone sort of is doing the right thing by the band and each other. But I mean, was this a bit of a tough thing for you guys and yourself personally to sort of tackle with properly when the thoughts started to become more prevalent?
It was a strange process because the conversation kind of happened rather quickly and decisively. And then I think the reality slowly caught up. I think if the world wasn't ground to a halt and the usual amounts of show offers and different stuff that just happens in a day-to-day band's life was still at the old fever pitch, maybe the impact would have been more emotionally instantaneous. But we are in a bit of, the music industry is kind of still in a bit of a coma at the moment, just kind of sleeping on life support. So I think that helped to soften the blow. I mean, it's a different journey for all of us. I feel that the guys coming in at their different points have got very different perspectives on how they're emotionally going with it. Jared, since joining the group, has become such an integral part of the running of Desecrator in a way that I hadn't ever allowed another member to be, which was completely necessary because I was tapped out when he joined the band, and he's helped to grow Desecrator to a point that I don't believe I would have been able to without the help of someone. Jerry came into what arguably was the peak time in Desecrator travel-wise, but also sacrifice-wise. So he's given up, given up a lot to be a part of this group in the time he has. So I feel his connection's very different as well. But for me personally, it's a very, very interesting time because I feel like Desecrator's been an identity. It's more than just a band I play in. You meet musicians who play in bands and you're like, okay, that's so-and-so, he plays in that band. I don't think I'm that guy. I think hey, that's Riley from Desecrator. That's kind of been my known point, even down to the stupid haircut on my head for a lot of years, So whether I was hungry to be in that role or whether people just put me in that role, my relevance to a lot of the national and international community is Riley from that band. So the idea of taking away that relevance is fucking terrifying. It's exciting at the same time because it means that growth to what version of yourself is going to come next once you take away that current version of yourself. But it has been a hell of a journey to catch my emotions up to the rationale that I knew was there. from the start, all the stuff that I've mentioned felt right, and we could talk about it together as a group. But that doesn't mean that anyone's emotions were ready to admit it to themselves. I think when the tour first got announced, that was a big thing. Dropping it publicly was a double-edged sword. It felt great, like a weight off my shoulders to just get it out in the public. But at the same time, the other cutting edge was, it's real now. You've done it. It's out there and there's no going back. So it's been a journey in that way. But I guess I feel, and the band feels, really helped along by the reaction that's come out since saying it. We were in a nice space where people were really complimentary about Summoning, and people were really enjoying the record. And then to drop something like this short, to watch the shocks, one thing, but the kindness that people have shown us as a band, and the things people have been saying about their experience with Desecrator and what Desecrator meant to them, what, interacting with us, what our music has done for them in their life, has helped the emotional side of it, because I guess it's made me firm in the belief that I'm not doing this and gonna go like, but if we just had it, or but we didn't quite jump that hurdle, or but we didn't quite get as far on that. I truly feel that we've made the impact that I set out to make. And I mean, that's an important thing to touch on, is that when I started Desecrator, I didn't have just an omnipresent idea of band, big, famous. It was a specific band started to be a specific thing. I put together, I wrote a bunch of songs, and I put together a band to be an international touring thrash metal band. That was its entire goal, and everything that we've done since then suited that goal. So to look at my tick box list, I think we ticked a lot more boxes than were ever on the sheet in the first place. I've gotten to meet the majority of my idols. I've been to countries I never would have thought. I've met people who have, bought and supported our music in parts of the world that, just blow your fucking mind. And I've spent so much time playing shows and meeting people in Australia, which was the original goal. I wanted a band, and I wanted to connect with people, and I wanted to be as cool as all the bands that I grew up idolizing. I put bands on pedestals, when I was a kid. Bands were 10 foot tall and stages were 20 foot high. Like that, bands and music was just this really cool thing that if you could achieve it, you'd really be someone, and that was someone I wanted to be. And I guess my 7-year-old dream of having long hair, being covered in tattoos and playing thrash metal got seen to fruition. Desecrator was nothing and became something. So I can happily sit back on that, and I guess for the first time in the band's history, I can let myself be a bit nostalgic about the things we've done. I never allowed that to happen whilst we were pushing. I think it's dangerous to look at too much of your achievements when you're still trying to achieve. I don't like kind of getting comfortable too much. Whereas I think we've allowed ourselves to do that now. And I think as a group, even though it's quite emotionally challenging to put to bed something that unites us and that brings us together as people, and that has given us the peaks of our lives, it also, those stories and memories and achievements won't ever go away, and they'll only get perverted over time and turned into way bigger crowds and way better gigs. So it can only get better from here, and it can only be filled with more joy looking back on it. I think you have to kind of allow yourself to enjoy the things you've achieved and go, that is something. We did do something. We did make an impact. We are written in the history books now, and that was what I always wanted to do. So I feel that on the emotional level, whilst it's still a bit of a journey to get used to, most of what I'm going through is joy. joy in talking about it, joy in sharing the stories with people, joy in people caring. There's a lot of things to take enjoyment out of, and it's this beautiful space now that, because I know that there is an end date, I can allow that joy in. And I'm really looking forward to playing this last run of shows, because it'll be the first run of shows ever in Desecrator's life with me fully present. Not me being a band leader who was on to the next step and, talking about the next charge and the next front. It'll be a group of people who are just there to celebrate the road that it's been and the joy that it's been, and to share that with people, one last time in every city. And I think that's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be music on a purity and a level that I reckon I haven't played since I was a teenager and just enjoyed playing,
I think that alone is something that most bands will never get the opportunity to feel. I think, when you're starting out and, everyone's green and just excited and full of testosterone or whatever, or energy just to get out and play shows, that you'll have that initial sort of thrill of the novelty of it all. But as you just said before, and you mentioned a few times, the thing that burdens a lot of musicians is that it's a process. It's a long game. It's we're doing something now, but it's for whatever's happening tomorrow or next week or next month or next year.
Yeah.
And so you never, you can say that you're present during a show, and you'll have those particular shows that do stand out over others, but to be able to do a run of shows knowing that this has additional meaning and it's not for what happens next, it's for what happens now. Just you explaining that, I'd love to have that feeling. That's an amazing feeling. And I don't think a lot of bands will allow themselves the opportunity, because going back to what we said earlier, a lot of bands will just either fizzle out or run themselves into the ground because, they're too scared of just sort of stopping when the time's right.
Yeah. I think by the point that you would reach that point, you're not in a healthy relationship with the people around you anymore. And that robs you of that point. And I think that is one of the greatest joys about this decision. And I guess it's something that's kind of hard to translate to people who aren't on the stage side of the interaction. There's been a lot of shocked people, and a lot of people have contacted me, which has been amazing. Like, just even the fact that they feel affected enough to reach out is completely humbling. But it's hard to explain the difference between what have been these amazing tours that we've done and what have been great shows. And, I've got memories of spine tingling, hairs on the back of your neck, things for days, but they were always a part of a game plan. And it just, to take that away, just seems magic. It seems like the closest a modern band can ever get to the origins of music, back when an artist was just an artist and someone took care of everything else. I've always looked at that very top small percentage of the pyramid who are indulged artists, especially artists from a young age they have the right support around them, so their finances are taken care of. They don't even think about money. It's just taken care of, and they have a comfortable life where they're just encouraged to be in an artistic space, and they create art on a level that I don't think you can unless you're in that space. And there's this kind of beauty where they just exist to create art, and there's none of the stresses of the money and the labels and all that we talk about before that is now in a band's face. They don't even have it in their face. It's just taken care of. Someone just says everything's sorted, and that's all they have to believe in. I think this is probably the closest I'll ever get to that space, because by the time we get out on these shows, everything will be taken care of, so that we can just actually enjoy the space, enjoy catching up with people, enjoy playing with bands that we've known along the way, but not doing what you always do, which is going, I'd be sick to catch up for a beer, or let's have a beer after the show, and then you end up at merch, or you end up doing something else, or you talk to someone, or you've got to go drive early. So you're like, next time, man, then 2 years go by, you know. So it'll be really nice to just be in that place where we can say, we're here tonight completely and presently. Let's enjoy this together, you know. And I'm sure that's going to be bittersweet. I'm sure there's going to, by the time the band's match fit again, you know, because the first few shows you still find your feet and you're a little bit rusty and you've got cobwebs, especially with the gap we've had with COVID. But by the time the band's got a stride and we're used to the lack of sleep again, and it's all just happening, and my throat's kind of burnt out and come back, and everyone's joints are kind of humming, it's going to hit what we used to always call nasty type, you know, show 7 type of thing, where you don't even think about the music because it just happens. It just comes out, and there's this beautiful performance moment where you're like, you're not thinking about your hand on the fretboard, you're not thinking about the lyrics, you're just delivering what you were born to deliver. And I'm sure we're going to get back there, and there's going to be the bittersweet moment of going, fuck, is this, you know, this is the last time in this town that I'm going to experience this feeling, you know. So there will be ups and downs, I'm sure, but I think that the celebration of it will outweigh anything else.
Oh, envious on that point alone. I think as I said before, I don't think a lot of bands will allow themselves the opportunity when that time comes, and it comes for every band. It's just a case of understanding when the right time is for that. But, you know, going back to, you know, thinking about this and this idea then turning into a decision that was made. I mean, obviously, you know, speaking about it amongst the band and you know, all sort of sharing thoughts and opinions before you come to a consensus of what you want to do. But did you personally reach out to other people, other mates, other musos to sort of bounce these ideas off other people, just to sort of get them out of your head and see what the perspective was like?
Yeah, a couple of people. Yeah, I'm very lucky that I've got a lot of good, you know, fellow musicians at different levels of their career, different levels of fame, different you know, distances along their own journeys in my life, and I definitely said it to a few people. More for the personal stuff than career advice, because I guess it always felt like what I've been talking about in the timing felt so correct at the time. Like as it was coming out, it felt natural enough that I didn't really need to second guess it. And the other guys shared an understanding. Like it wasn't like we all sat down and we were all happy. We were all a bit kind of like, well, that's emotionally numbing and a bit confusing, but we all agreed on the rationale of it. So that side didn't really need to be double checked. But for my own emotional journey and my own fears, I definitely reached out to some people around me on a local and international level. And I guess beyond everyone being a bit shocked, I guess because of the type of driven person that I've put forward, everyone kind of came back with great advice on, you know, what they thought about their end or what they thought the journey might end. And it's funny how once you start talking about it with people who are seasoned, you know, people who have lasted past their 30s, people who have lasted in bands past the 10-year mark, you all have very similar outlooks, even if you're not agreeing on doing the same thing. You all have very similar outlooks on the reasons and the motivations for these things. So it was nice to validate that a bit, and to kind of have the people I could bring in on that decision. No one told me I was fucking crazy, which was really nice, which is good. I mean, either people just quietly thought it, but you know, but I was resolute enough that they're like, oh, well, he's fucking, no point telling him he's crazy. No point telling a crazy man he's crazy. It was either that or it just made enough sense that no one felt the need to say, but have you thought about it this way? Or have you thought about this? Or maybe people were just really excited to see Desecrator finish. You know, maybe they're like, fuck, it's about time those guys fucked right off.
I think anything, I mean, I sort of put myself in another person's shoes. And I think if someone's, expressing themselves in a way which comes across as very, not just well thought out or even rational, but just there's a genuine approach to their way of thinking and why they've got to the point that they're at. And it's like anything in life. If you're finding that things aren't the way that you would like them to be, or you're not 100% satisfied, or it's not motivating you in the same ways that you were looking for this to motivate you, then I mean, from my point of view as an outsider, I mean, who would I be to attack that or to challenge that, apart from, making sure that maybe there's an awareness of what the consequences of a decision are. But ultimately, I mean, if somebody feels something, you can't mess with that. I think you got, and
totally got.
Otherwise, you're in denial, and that goes back into all those scenarios we were talking about before, where you just keep plodding along in denial and
I've definitely had a couple of people have. The reason we used indefinite hiatus, which is something I wanted to touch on, I guess, is as opposed to breaking up. I think breaking up has such a negative connotation to it, and it implies unhappiness and it implies unrest. And your mind, I don't know, but my mind instantly goes to there's trouble in the group. There's, they've had a falling out, or someone's fucked it. So I didn't want to touch that term. And I guess I feel like as Desecrator's been me and I've been Desecrator for so long, I feel like it'll always exist on some level. Like, I might be being a bit romantic here, but the idea of Desecrator existing going forward, like, I listen to more bands that aren't together than bands that are together, I reckon, personally. So I believe that the Desecrator exists for as long as people want to hear Desecrator. It doesn't mean that Desecrator has to exist as an active band to exist in that way. And I guess I tried to say that in the hiatus press release, is that as long as the music's there, as long as people enjoy the music, and as long as people still grab a T-shirt out of their cupboard, as long as people still chuck it on at a party, Desecrator still exists. Like, that was my number one goal with this band, was to make something that made an impact that was beyond me. So I feel like it's a hiatus in a way that it's a hiatus because I'm taking away the live entity of the band. I'm taking away the front of the band, but I'm not taking away the band. Like, the band still exists. Desecrator will still exist. We've even, for the next year or so, we've got solid plans to share as much old, great tour stuff that we've got with people online as possible. Because I'd love to keep sharing that with people. I don't think that we're just going to go dark just because we are, as a band, going inactive and going on hiatus. But I think that we've got so much good stuff sitting in the catalogues that we're always on the one day. Like, we'll look at that one day, or we'll do that one day. And I think that it'll still be fun to keep the socials active and to communicate with people. I think a lot of bands, to my eye, do that really well, where they don't use it to stay active. I'm not going to be on there preaching and talking about the band because the band is defunct, but we are going to be on there sharing nostalgia and sharing moments and sharing out times that we believe people enjoy seeing whilst they still continue to enjoy Desecrator. So that was, I guess, why the term hiatus was chosen, because I feel like the band will always kind of exist. It's just that it is not existing in the format that it traditionally was invented for, Yeah.
And I the comment you made before about listening to more bands that are inactive or no longer together as a functional sense versus current bands that are around. I'm the same. I look at my shelves with all my CDs and my vinyl, and there's so many bands that just are not around anymore for various reasons. And I've got I don't know if you've got that book from Brian Griffin, the Encyclopedia of Australian Heavy Metal, and it's like this gigantic book that's just filled with bands, and you scroll through. I love looking through it because I always find a band, I'm like, who the hell is this? And then I look at one of the band members, and I'm like, oh, it's old mate. Like, he plays in such and such band these days, and you sort of trace it back. And like, I love I love discovering music that, was, bands that were barely a band before I was even born, let alone, what's happened in the last, 37 odd years. And I just, I've spoken about this quite a bit on the podcast and probably with you as well. I think one of the humbling things and one of the things that gives you peace of mind is that, all the touring, all the promotion, all that sort of stuff, it's all important. It's all part of the game, and and they bring and retain great memories. But, what you put out there in the music space, that stuff's timeless, and it's a stamp, it's a time capsule of the time. And as you've explained before, it's the band up until that point. It's everything behind the band up until that point of putting that album out. And that album will continue to get discovered, and all of your releases will continue to get discovered by people in the coming years. And I think that's awesome, because you take the pressure off the band of getting out there and constantly trying to be relevant, constantly trying to get in front of people's faces. The unknowns, what we spoke about at the beginning about, what's a typical touring musician, what's their life look like, over the coming years, and no one really knows for sure. And there's a lot of risks and unknowns that are ahead of us. So, I think if any band out there, whether you've been together for a year or 5 years or 20 years or whatever it might be, if you're able to record and put out music, then that's you've left a stamp. You've left something behind, and it's something that can continue to be discovered and enjoyed. So I love it, and I love the fact that you guys are keen to continue to share stuff as well, and share the stories and share the information about the band, and not just to be shutting the doors and never going to hear from us again. Because I think it's just important that what you guys have done should be celebrated for as long as you can. And I think there should be, no doubt you guys have got a lot of ideas, but as you're talking, my mind's going in a million different directions. But to be able to continue to time capsule what you guys have done is just it's an exciting thing. And I think it's a nice way to no doubt give you guys a little bit of closure as far as this era or this chapter of what you guys are doing, and might help you make decisions on what the future lies, as far as being a creative and what you want to do, and whether you want to do another band or just do something at home in your bedroom, or just with your mates in the rehearsal room, whatever it might be. It's just, it gives you sort of that new lease of life to move forward with something fresh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that touches on a good point as well, in that there's been a few people have written it to me, actually. A few musicians have written to me saying, "Oh, you're giving up," or "You've lost the fight," type of thing. And I think that's such a misunderstanding of what's happening. Like, if anything, it's the opposite. I feel like we've won the fight. This was our fight. Like, our fight's different to everyone else's fight. Every band has an individual time frame and an artistic goal set that I think that just because one band are out there struggling to achieve one goal that might take them their whole career to jump that hurdle, because that's their set of goals, doesn't mean another band hasn't jumped all their hurdles and reached a point of contentment where they are for the point. Now, if Desecrator's there for eternity or not, I can't answer you now. I don't have that perspective. But, there's no lack of keenness for every member of Desecrator to be a creative musician. And I think that that's important too. Like whether it's creative together or creative separately, there'll be no lack of people from this band being musicians. This is not a retirement of sorts, and that was something that I did worry about announcing the hiatus, because I'm announcing that, we're announcing that, but I guess because I'm the face of the band and I'm the one talking about it, I'm announcing that on behalf of 3 other people as well. So it's important to me to convey that none of the dudes in my band are retiring. Like, we're not dudes who are hanging up our guitars on the wall to be items that we just look at and gather dust. And it's not like Jared's drum cymbals are slowly going to get a layer of snow on them. Like, we're all active musicians. So I'm sure the hunger is going to change. It's going to take different shapes. Now, whether it's us together enjoying the freedom of creativity in a new space, or whether it's everyone in new bands or in new groups or releasing their own music, I've got no doubt that that the members of Desecrator will pop up pretty bloody soon.
Well, it's a positive. That's the main thing. And I think from a fan point of view, I mean, I was probably just as shocked as a lot of other big fans of the band. I mean, I know we've crapped on about this in the past about the word fan, friends of the band. And, I think you always worry. And I think, you've been no doubt in the same position as me, where we've seen a lot of friends, a lot of mates that have not always ended it on the right note for the right reasons, and have thrown the towel in and maybe missed an opportunity or haven't reached their full potential or done the things that they deserved to achieve because maybe there was a moment or a situation that sort of just has steered them in a direction where they've just decided to give up, for a lack of a better term. And so I think there's always a worry when you see mates that are making big decisions and you go, oh man, and you feel for them, because I think we all have that inner, that underlying anxiety of just wanting to achieve something as a musician, as a person in a band creating music. And you just hope that, whatever the decisions are, the reasons behind those decisions, I should say, are the right ones. And, they're for the very best of the person or the people involved. So it's nice to hear you talk about it all, because it makes complete sense, and it's a nice positive in a way, because it's a beautiful little bow on a lovely package called Desecrator. And
all I ever wanted, man, was a bow on the logo.
That's it.
They never let me have it. I had an upside down cross instead.
and now, once, over the coming months and, going out and doing that final run of shows, which will be amazing. And then having sort of whatever the future brings after that. And I think it's just all positive and it's encouraging and probably a little bit inspiring for probably fellow musicians to listen to, because it sort of just gives everyone a bit of deep down assurance that, we can make bigger decisions and we don't have to keep doing the same thing over and over again when, sometimes the external elements start to change and we don't always have control over the situation. So, yeah.
I guess that, if there was anything, unlike other times where I've done podcasts and interviews which have had a motivation, I guess I've always felt like I wanted to be helping the greater good in these type of conversations. This one's a little bit more self-absorbed because it is just talking inwardly about us as a group. But if there is one thing that I think it'd be healthy to convey to other musicians, and even just the understanding of people who listen to music and enjoy bands and follow bands, like adamantly follow them release to release as opposed to just flippantly turn them on and off, is that it's okay to think outside the stereotype of what a band's progression has to be, and it's okay to make your own decisions and write down your own goal lists, and they don't have to be what Metallica's were. They don't have to be, they don't have to be what was written in Metal Hammer that Corey Taylor said once. They are yours, and it's okay to realize that yours as an adult are different to what they were when you were a kid too. Don't just play and keep playing because when you were young and full of fire, you made some decisions. It's very easy to make some decisions and then just stubbornly stick to them past the point that you even know why you decided them in the first place. If life's ever changing, your experience is ever changing, your interactions shape you. And as a musician, if you aren't open to those changes, I think you're cheating yourself out of creativity at the core of it. So admit these things to yourself and don't let your ego get in the way of something that might be potentially scary, whether it's taking a left or a right turn instead of going straight ahead, whether it's, taking on new artistic endeavors or ending old ones that are comfortable, or just shaking the tree and seeing what falls out. Don't be scared of it, because if this process has taught me one thing, it's that with change and with the fear and with all of the anxiety and everything that comes along with it is amazing creative inspiration. You can get into a space that you'll not have experienced since before you were in the other space. So you start to remember what those energies were that motivated you to do something in the first place, but you see it in this whole new light because you're a different person than when you made your first decisions, and you get some great inspiration out of it. You get some great life clarity out of it. You'll become a better person for it. Your friends will want to hang out with you more. It's basically an endorsement for Coca-Cola. So, you will run faster, sleep better, fuck better, and you'll just be a better dude, or woman. Just make the big calls. Don't be scared of it. I think that's a really important thing to do in life.
I love it. Yep. Yeah. 100% agree with that. And it's something that I think a lot of us even struggle just to get the awareness in the first place, let alone make the decision to actually shake things up and take those risks. And a lot of the time, once you do take those steps, then they're nowhere near as daunting or as overwhelming as you have made them out to be.
Of course.
But it's a case of just trying to have them front of mind and just know that at any stage, you can make decisions. And if something's not 100% or it's not firing on all cylinders, then make an adjustment and don't be afraid to hold out and continue to sort of chug along, not at full capacity.
I think as an artist, you have to really challenge the space you're in if you want to continue to create. Because if you're not creating from a present moment, then what are you creating? Like if you're creating from a moment that was in the past, then you're not there anymore. So how are you even going to translate it? And if you're creating from a moment in the future, you haven't lived it yet. So what are you going to have to say, and how are you going to know that's what you got to say until you actually get there? You can only create from the moment you're in. So identifying yourself with the present, I think, is vital as an artist, and recognizing that sometimes the present isn't comfortable. Sometimes it's not going to be what you thought it was, but sit with it and explore it and realize what it is, and make the necessary steps to make sure that you're right in that moment.
I think that's a pretty good way to round this chat out, I should say. And
a bit of Buddhist philosophy for the end of it.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Leave everyone with something to think about. Just sit there on the couch going, oh, okay, all right, I'll process that one. So I think it's important because there's going to be plenty of time for people to make decisions and what they want to do. But there are some tour dates, the rescheduled ones for January of 2022, just to really timestamp this conversation, because who knows when people are going to listen to this. But I no doubt the majority of people will listen to this long before these shows roll around. So have you got dates in front of you? Because I certainly do. I can do the plugging for you if you don't have...
Yeah, go on. I've got to do a few button clicks.
Okay, all right. So what do we got? We've got January the 6th.
New South Wales is first, isn't it?
No. Well, hang on. Is Albury in New South Wales? Yeah, it is. Yeah, there you go. It's on the border. I always get those two, Albury and Wodonga, mixed up. So Beer Deluxe in Albury on the 6th of January. Then you've got the Basement in Canberra on the 7th of January. Then
I can't wait to play to 30 people in Canberra and pretend it was 60 the next day.
Surely you're going to get better in Canberra. Surely.
I'm gonna. We've actually played some fantastic shows in Canberra. It was definitely a fun place to play, and the Basement's a really good stage. They've opened that space up really nicely. But I'm going to enjoy the fuck out of running a tour diary that no band would dare to while we do this tour. I'm going to take the photos from the back of the room instead of right next to the stage like every other band does on social media. Like, check out this action shot from one head deep. There are only two heads deep, but we're not going to show you the two heads deep. I'm taking them from the back of the room. That's my inspiration on this tour. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be honest about who was at these shows, and I'm going to let people know the reality of touring in a band in Australia and how thoroughly and awesome it is, but what the reality is. Whether it's awesome, whether it's not, I'm just going to put it out there. And it's something I'm actually really excited about. I think it's going to be cool to like say, all right, this is what the venue looks like in its honesty. You know, this is what the crowd was like tonight, but Jesus Christ, we had a lot of fucking fun with them, you know? I think it's going to be cool. So many bands try and avoid that like fuck. I've said it before. If your gig doesn't come out on social media the next day, did you even play a gig? It's like the tree falling in the woods thing, you know? So I'm going to give social media a thrashing of Australian honesty.
I love it. I love it because I actually criticize photographers who take photos from the back of the room going, get up close and just
why would you do this to this band?
Don't make any band look smaller than what they are. Like, give them...
It's an unkind thing to do because the perception is, you know, that if you're not playing to a packed room, you're not doing well. It doesn't factor in that you're probably playing in a regional town on a Tuesday.
That's right.
So the 30 people who came was a high achievement in bloody Leeton or something, you know. But people don't take it that way. So I totally agree, man. I look at photos from the back of the room, especially when bands do it to other bands. I'm like, oh, you're just being a dick now.
Yeah.
but I can do it to my own band.
Oh, look, I think if you frame it the right way, just the way you explained it, I think it'll be beautiful because it'll be a nice message just to remind people of why we do what we do and why we go out and have fun and look, to be honest, I mean, this is me talking purely from a selfish point of view and from a punter, but I'd much rather go to a gig that's, you know, a quarter full or half full than absolutely packed to the rafters because it's a pain in the ass.
It's so unpleasant.
Yeah, and I can't get a beer quickly, and you know I'm just not enjoying it. And there's always people there that you just don't want to be there, and just those gronks and all that sort of stuff. So that's me being selfish. But you know, if you're framing it from a just a reminder to say, look, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who shows up.
I think it'll be a nice thing. Yeah, it's an empowering thing that I think hopefully it'll let a few bands put their guard down and say, you know what, if Desecrator are happy to show joy from these moments. I mean, fuck, some of my best memories, man, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but some of my best memories are like I remember doing Warrnambool on a Wednesday in the middle of winter. And I reckon there were like 13 people in there, and that probably included the band that played before us, you know? But of those 13 people, we had like one of the most fun and intimate and personal shows because you just throw away the caring and you're like, right, this is for those people. They're here. They paid to get in. They're here. We're here with them. This is our night together. And like, those are sometimes the moments that stand out. So I kind of want to find a way to show people those moments that empower those moments and don't look like empty rooms. They look like the few who were lucky enough to experience it on that level. Because I truly believe in those moments because I enjoy them. You know, I've seen some of my favourite bands play to fuck all people and thought it was the fucking best. And it didn't make me think, oh, geez, my favourite band's a bit not as good. It made me go, fuck, I was lucky, you know? Yeah,
definitely. And there's nothing worse than going to a show to see a band play and the band you can see is totally disappointed with the turnout and you can see it in their performance and you go, well, hang on, like I paid to get in and so did the guy next to me and the 4 or 5 other people in the room. It might not be many of us, but we've made the decision to come and see you.
Yeah, totally. The money from our wallet is still going in your pocket to put fuel in your tank to drive to the next place that a few more people might come to. So you still kind of owe us a thank you and a good show. But yeah, I just think, you know, it's going to be nice to again, be present and enjoy those moments, but to also try and share those moments. But anyway, I interrupted. You said we're playing Albury. That's a starting point. We've got one show out for it.
So Albury, and then you said you were going to get fuck all people in Canberra, but I reckon you'll get a few. I reckon that'll go all right. Friday night in Canberra, the 7th of Jan. Then the following night, Saturday, the 8th of January at Hamilton Station in Newcastle. So Newey's got a good scene up there. And then the Sunday, so you got a 4-run show. This is excellent. Frankie's Pizza in Sydney. Sundays at Frankie's always go well. So that'll be a nice one.
It's a really fun vibe. Like, I really hope it's hard in Sydney for a Melbourne band. Like, I really find that Sydney has always been a very cliquey scene, and for different ways than Melbourne is. Melbourne's a cliquey scene for bands and for lineups. I think Sydney's a cliquey scene for who organises the show. Depending on who's running your show is depending on what crowd you're going to get and if they're going to come out. We've played some phenomenal nights up there, over the years, and we've also done some absolute fucking hard, quiet ones. But I'm hoping, like, Frankie's is one of our favourite spaces because they're really cool people. It's a really cool bar, obviously. We've done a lot of playing there, and, of course, it fills out a Sunday night, which is hard to do on a tour. I'm hoping that Sydney is an out-and-about enough city this time round with a vibrant enough music culture that I've seen because I've been part of it, that on a Sunday night we can still get a really good vibe in Frankie's and really kind of send off Sydney. Like, it feels like Sydney should be a show that there's some core people there from along the journey. So hopefully Sunday won't deter them too much and we can really kind of fuck up their week before it even starts.
Well, I reckon it's probably the best timing to do this show because it's pretty much the first week or the first going into the second week of January. So a lot of people are still going to be off, still sort of in holiday mode. It's summer as well, so great time of the year. And we're also, as it stands now, we're about to come out of our lockdown in Sydney.
Exciting.
And so we're about to hit what I would hope is a really great time for live music and just for attitudes in general here in Sydney. I think people are going to be really excited just to get out of the house and do things. And I think come January and February, it's still going to be rolling. So I'm quietly confident for you guys. I reckon that'll be a big show. So that's Sunday, the 9th of January at Frankie's Pizza. Then you've got the following week, it looks like Friday, the 14th of January at Mo's Desert Clubhouse on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, how cool does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds like it could go in. It could go really well, or it could fucking.
I have no conception of the joint, but I love the fucking name, and I really hope that we're treated like filth and made to play on the floor in the corner and then have to buy a hamburger. That's the experience I want from that joint. I want it to be really, I want it to be on that level. I really hope that if we get there, it's hard work. It looks like a name that's probably shown up on like a 9 News report of a police invasion or something like that. 9 dead at most.
So we got that one Friday, the 14th of Jan, and the Gold Coast summer. Once again, like doing these shows in summer, great. Like this is going to be really good for you guys. Then the following night, Saturday, the 15th of January at the Mansfield Tavern in Brisbane for a big show there. Mansfield Tavern's awesome. we played there at least once, I think, but very, very cool venue. Okay. And the locals love it there as well. So I think you guys will have a great show there up in Brizzy. And then
there's always been a very thriving thrash metal scene in Brisbane. It's not, the crowd support has not always been the biggest because I don't think they have the density of metalhead to support all the different genres up there at times. But the scene of bands and the quality of bands in Brisbane has always been great. I think they're kind of an unsung, because everyone goes thrash metal Melbourne, because I guess we had such a dominant bunch of bands early on, but there's a mega wave of great bands up there that I love playing Brisbane because they all come out and it's always a really good night.
Yeah, Brizzy's great, and I can see some good stuff happening up there where I think a few promoters are starting to work together and align themselves, and I think we're starting to get back to some glory days of a Brizzy metal, which is good. So then the following Saturday, the 22nd, the Desecrator final Melbourne show, capital letters. Yeah, and I believe that's at the Hi-Fi.
Yep. Well, now called Max Watts. But
Max Watts. Okay. Get them right.
Yeah, man. That's going to obviously be for us the centerpiece of the tour. Hometown farewell show is a really big deal, especially as a live band in Melbourne. I feel very excited about that. The venue's a great space. It's a nice big stage to do it on. It's going to be a joy. I've got a lot planned visually as well as musically for that night. It's going to be a very standout show that I think punters are going to want to be a part of. I've put a lineup together that, to my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, has never been done before. And it is an absolute who's who. I think we release that next week or the week after, but it's it's the kind of thing that I don't think you'd be able to get all the bands to agree to if one of the bands wasn't playing their farewell show. I'm really excited to put that one out and play that one. It's going to be, there's a few things I had left on my bucket list personally as a musician in Desecrator, a few little goals that I had left that I've been able to make come to fruition at Max Watts. I won't drop them now, but they will be a spectacle, that's for sure.
Well, when this comes out, if it's not announced, I'll have links I'm going to have links anyway to all the ticket links and for the dates, everything, so people can have a squiz. And after we get off this chat, I was meaning to do it the other day when you guys announced that tickets were available for Melbourne, but I'm just going to book a ticket for that Melbourne show. And then explain it to Jess afterwards and just say, oh, by the way.
Very good. Sounds like very good reasoning. Yeah. Sounds like the kind of logic that a musician possesses.
Yeah, that's right.
Say yes now, work out how later.
Work it out. That's exactly right. That's pretty much been, I think, most musicians for their entire careers, it's, negotiate afterwards, just commit, say yes, get into it, work it out later. Yeah.
Full blind commitment.
Yep.
Then go, oh, fuck, how? Yeah.
Yeah. All that creativity, all those skill sets, that's where they all are developed, out of a necessity of being backed into a corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just fight your way out. Yeah.
So I think, as you said, that's going to be pretty much the big focal point. That's going to be a big show, I think, of the tour. But a little while after that, looks like a couple of weeks after that, you guys are over to Adelaide playing the Enigma Bar, the classic Enigma Bar. So that's
one more time. Our original drummer, Matt, was from Adelaide, and Desecrator actually played our very first ever show in Adelaide.
Yeah, right.
In Enigma. So we felt it was worth going one more time and play on that weird sounding corner stage one more time.
And all that stuff upstairs as well.
Oh, the Predator statues.
Yeah.
What a space! Like, what a space that was designed by someone who watched a film about what young heavy metal people liked in '92, and then built a venue and went, that's the aesthetic. People fucking love corrugation, and do you know what sounds great? Corrugated iron. And do you know what goes well with corrugated iron? Mechanically built Predator statues. People fucking love Predator. Predator's very cool with the young kids. Now, let's feed them Red Bull and alcohol. This cannot fail. The old Enigma. And the fact, I remember doing Young Enigma Bar, because I don't know if it's still the deal now. I haven't negotiated an Enigma show in a while, but it used to be like you'd get your rider when there was 100 payers.
Yeah, right.
Which we all know that in Adelaide's a fucking fallacy and a rort. because even if there's 100 people in that room, half those people ain't paying.
No way.
We started to believe that they'd get up to the 80-odd ticket mark in Enigma and they just start, like, letting them in for free. They're like, we're not giving them a rider. You just go in for free, buddy. That's fine. Anyway, Enigma.
I remember one time, just a quick Enigma story, is for a rider. I'm pretty sure they either gave us drink tickets. I don't think they actually gave us a case or anything like that, but I think they gave us tickets, and it was for the house beer only. And the house beer on this particular show that I can remember, I don't think it was every time, they had the House Enigma beer. And I tell you what, I mean,
it's the ends of the kegs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've had some rough beers over the years, and you look, after a while, it doesn't really matter anymore because your taste buds go. But
it matters the next day, Andy.
Without a doubt.
The amount of times that I've gone down those back fire escape stairs to drink out the back of a car instead of drinking Enigma's non-supplied house beer. Yeah, sometimes you got to take matter in your own hands.
You do. So that's the 12th.
So we're going to be an Enigma. I'm looking forward to that. I'll see everyone in the car park because we won't reach the ride of fucking capacity.
So that's Saturday, the 12th of Feb for my Adelaide mates listening in. And then the following weekend, the 18th of Feb, on a Friday night, is at Volta in Ballarat.
Yeah.
Ballarat Central. Central. I've never heard of Volta before, but I'll be looking for a report after you guys play it.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. But I don't know. Fair, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
Ballarat's always been a bit of a mainstay for us. Early Desecrator, there was still quite a dominant scene in Ballarat. Yeah. There were a lot of bands. I mean, a lot of Victorian bands. There's a big lineage of metal from Ballarat. That I feel has kind of not been as present for the last few years. There's definitely bands coming out of Ballarat, but I feel that they haven't carved a hometown identity in a way that they did in the Damaged era type of thing. But there were some really great shows in the early days there. So we kind of starved it a little bit in the in-between years, but we thought it'd be really nice to get it back on this tour and get back down there and hopefully get a few of the geriatrics out and kind of give them all shoulder and neck aches. So we'll see how we go. But Ballarat, I think, will be cool too because it's a nice little drive out of Melbourne. And it's always there's something about the vibe of Ballarat that suits heavy metal. It's got you drive into all the old kind of bluestone bridges and that heritage of an industry-based town, and it kind of suits the way heavy metal looks to me. So I like going there.
Yeah, I think we've only ever played there once. We played at what was that place, the Corova Lounge or something like that, or whatever.
Yeah, Corova was the stop.
Yeah, and great experience, and we've always meant to go back there. And well, never say never, but bring on Volta in Ballarat, and I'll wait for a report.
I think Volta is Corova. I think that's the new name for Corova.
Oh, cool. I think so. Excellent venue then.
And if I'm totally wrong, the band's ending, so who cares?
We'll report back on that one.
I can spread misinformation. You
totally can. And look, to be honest, you're going to be taking a photo from the back of the room anyway, so exactly. We'll find out for sure. You'll
all see what the stage looks like.
Yeah, that's right. And then last show on the list that I've got in front of me is in Warrnambool at, is it Wannon Rooms?
Wannon Rooms.
Wannon Rooms. I've never been to Warrnambool before, but you mentioned before you had a stellar show there in the past. So any expectations coming into this one?
I'm actually really excited for Warrnambool because it's the last show of the tour. So technically it's the last Desecrator show of this group and of this time. So that just happened by pure routing. It wasn't a choice, but it's a choice that we're embracing. It's a Bayside city where, Bay Area thrash. That makes sense. I think that it's going to be cool. We've got some key friends who come out of Warrnambool, which I may try and influence to play a role in this experience, and that's all I'll say on that. I can leave people guessing at that one, but I think it's going to be cool. The tour package that we're touring with for these dates is, of course, Harlot, who I feel like if you know Desecrator, you know Harlot, and The Ascended, who are a band from Warrnambool originally. So it's their hometown show too, which will be good for them. It's their album launch. They're kind of the newer band on the package with everything to gain, nothing to lose type of thing. So I think they'll be keen to put in a good run at Warrnambool. And yeah, I've got to, again, if it's the last night, we're definitely going to have a lot of Desecrator crew coming from Melbourne to Warrnambool that I already know about. And I've got some ideas up my sleeve that I really would say, if you're in driving distance from Warrnambool, we're booking hotel rooms. We may stay a few days. It's going to be large.
Well, I've already pulled up Google Maps. So I'm having a look to see. Oh, it's about a 3 hour drive from Melbourne. Not too bad.
Yep.
I mean, if you go on the speed limit,
that's good. Especially if you get a couple of mates in the car so that you share the driving.
Yep.
That's really only like the first 3 Metallica albums, and you're there. Which is a joy to listen to at any time.
Well, that's it. Absolutely. Yeah. And look, it's a Saturday night as well. So you can come down early Saturday and enjoy the day, get comfortable early.
Go there. Gorgeous beaches.
Yeah. And then see a bit of thrash metal and then slowly make your way back home late Sunday afternoon or evening, whatever. Yeah. No rush.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that it's going to be for the last show. It's going to be a very eventful time. I'm sure it'll be a very emotional time. There'll be tears. But yeah, it's very cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Love it. I might have to try and twist an arm again, see if I can go to Warrnambool for the first time ever in my life.
Great town. You'll love it. You'll never leave.
I've got a funny feeling that I might end up being just an extra part of the Desecrator tour in January and February. Just looking at these dates, I'm like, I could probably go to that.
Man, hop in.
Why not?
Learn a song, play.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Just join the band. Join the band so that you can say I was in Desecrator. And they say, when were you in Desecrator? So I just did.
I can't handle this commitment. Jeez. This commitment for the rest of my life.
A musician, are you? Yeah.
Well, I can at least take a photo of the back of the room while you guys are playing.
Yeah. Do you know what? Come along as our tour diary and videographer. We'll do an anti-social live tour diary where we talk through daily the reality of being in an Australian band, the reality of touring Australia, the reality of Australian venues. We can really debunk a lot of stuff for younger dudes. We can show them what it's actually like out on the road, what it takes to get there, and then we can hopefully inspire people to play the stopgaps between the main cities as well. This is a thing. Lock it in.
All right. Well,
we need corporate sponsorship.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this conversation and leave everyone hanging.
Is you not committing to my idea that's going to take you heaps of effort?
Hey,
just my wild idea that I've just publicly thrown out into the marketplace that involves me not doing heaps, but you doing heaps.
But you know what? Like in typical fashion, where a lot of these ideas usually stem from or eventuate into, they sound pretty damn good, and you end up finding yourself over-investing into a crazy idea that might not really bring a lot of a return, but ends up being a lot of fun. So who knows? The cogs are already turning, mate. So whether it's that or a version of that, who knows? But I've got a feeling I'm going to pop up at least a couple of times on this tour.
Sounds good.
All right. Good stuff, mate. Well, Desecrator.net, Desecrator on the socials. We're going to have everything in the show notes, and people can pick up the new album, Summoning. It's a hell of an album. I'm really, really impressed. I'm a big fanboy of the album, and we'll continue to spread the good word of Desecrator long after you guys stop playing shows, and no doubt people will listen to this chat in the years to come as well. So howdy for those people listening in the future as well. But any parting words, Rolly, before we just
look, I think it's been really nice to have this conversation and get it out in a format that was comfortable. So thank you for providing that for me and providing me with a platform to do that on. I think that it's a really nice thought that people are going to pause their lives to listen to this, and for that I've always been mega grateful of anyone who invested any time or bent their ear to Desecrator. So that's something that I will never forget or never stop to appreciate or never not be humbled by. So yeah, for anyone who sat through the drivel to this point, well done. And probably find some better content for the rest of your life.
Now, go and grab the latest album, Summoning, from Desecrator.net. Go to the store, pick up a vinyl, a CD, maybe a bit of merch, a T-shirt and the likes. Go to Desecrator.net, go and support them. And of course, if you're a streaming services person, like Spotify and Apple Music. I'm a Spotify guy. Go and find the album on there. Share it with your thrash metal mates. Find the tracks on YouTube as well. Share them around and add the songs to your favorite playlist. Get the album out to as many people as you can. And at least from my point of view, after listening to this chat, having this chat with Riley and listening back to it, I'm more passionate than ever to help them end this chapter on the biggest and highest note possible for them. And I think they've already achieved a lot of that with the release of this album, which in my opinion is one of the best Australian metal albums to come out in quite a long time. So get behind it, check it out, support it, give these guys a bit of love. And if you're in any of these places in Australia in January that we spoke about, go to desecrator.net/tour. There's tickets that you can buy. Get your tickets in advance. Support the guys. Give them the guarantees that they need to tour with confidence and get behind them. It's going to be January. It's going to be summer. We're all hopefully going to be completely out of the cage again. We're going to be able to enjoy hopeful normal life. And what better way to do it than in summer with a few drinkies, watching a bit of heavy metal. And I'm going to try to go to at least 2, maybe 3 shows. So if you see me out and about, let's have a beer and enjoy a bit of thrash. So desecrator.net/tour, and all the ticket links and everything will be in there. And of course, everything that we've discussed will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. And I'll have the video clips that have come out to date from Desecrator for the new album Summoning in the show notes as well, so you can have a squiz over there. Massive thank you to Riley and Jared and Andrew for being on the podcast over the years multiple times. It's been awesome to document Desecrator, to the extent that I have. And irrespective of what happens in the future, it's cool to time capsule the band and the musicians and to do it, it wasn't meant to be this way, but we've spoken about this quite a bit in the past with different guests on the podcast, but just a little bit of documentation of Australian music, Australian musicians, Australian metal on the podcast. And while the podcast is not a music podcast as such, and I speak to lots of different people from all walks of life and different backgrounds, it is part of this is, documenting a community that's really close to me, and that's Australian music and Australian metal. And we've had lots of amazing people on the podcast so far and many more to come. So stay tuned for that. Now, I have not recorded an outro for whatever it is, 3.5, 4 months, whatever it's been since the last episode. So I'm a bit rusty and I should have written out some notes beforehand. So I don't really know what I'm going to waffle on about here, but I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I think the main thing that I just want to share with you guys is that I've revised Patreon. So go to patreon.com/AndyDowling. I have reduced the tiers down. So we've just got a $1 tier and a $5 tier, and that is fucking it. There's no $10 tiers, no $20 tier. And as much as I appreciate the support and those additional dollary dues from these legends who've been supporting me, I just want the numbers. I want to simplify this. I want to have as many people supporting me as possible. It's not so much about the dollars, which does help and does help sort of take the burden of monthly expenses of running a podcast, website hosting, podcast hosting, gear, editing, all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of money that sort of goes into it, but that's kind of okay. I'm happy to do it because I've been doing it for so long. But what I want is that sort of ground support from you guys. And so if you can spare $1 a month, get behind it, patreon.com/AndyDowling. It's a great way of supporting. And the $5 tier will just be a nice little warm and fuzzy additional amount. And I haven't worked out whether the Crazy Talk episodes are going to be just for the $5 tier or for both. Don't know yet, but jump on over. If you can spare $1 a month, that'd be amazing. And let's get a few more of you guys jumping on and increasing the groundswell of support. And hopefully Andy Social Podcast continues to be a growing platform where I can help to showcase and share stories from not just Australian musicians, bands, and Australian metal, but anybody that I find interesting that's doing amazing stuff out there in the wider world. So lots of fun stuff to come. I've got a bunch of episodes pre-recorded, so I'm going to start dropping them out, and I don't know whether I'm going to do these weekly, one a week or 2 a week like I was doing previously. Haven't quite worked that out at the time of recording this. So stay tuned. At the very least, it's going to be 1 a week, at least until the end of the year, but we'll see how we go. I think that's probably enough for now. So until next episode, folks, thank you so much for listening, tuning in. Welcome back, and welcome back to me, and we'll speak soon. All right, ta-ta, bye.